after the baby, that's when everything went wrong. I mean, whereas other couples would say after the baby,
That's when things
we were a bit
got
more
better.
closer and things got
Yeah.
better. And that is why when you go through the book, and I have a workbook where couples go through all those stages and
Yeah.
each part of the house. They
Yeah.
go from the foundation up to the roof. The
Sure.
roof is the end.
Yeah. I know that we actually want people to read the book. Sometimes you don't want to unpack everything. But I just want us quickly to, just for the benefit of obviously someone who's sitting and very interested at this point, let's go through those pillars again. The foundation, which you said is obviously the most important, which is the same for
Yes.
the house, you know?
Yes.
When you've got a
Yes.
shaky foundation, your home will not
Cracks
stand. It
and
will
won't,
crack.
and it won't stand. Yes.
The walls,
Is the communication.
which is a communication, will show that, listen, problem
There's
is
cracks
underneath.
there. There's cracks
Foundation
there.
is
Absolutely.
horrible.
Yes.
So what are some of those?
So the
without going into
communication, remember,
detail?
will affect the cracks.
Of course, yeah.
And then we have the door I spoke about.
Yes.
The windows is the vision where you
Yeah.
sit and you plan your future together with about your kids as well if you have children. And you have your stairs and you have your roof. So I think
Yeah.
that's the basic. I haven't left out anything.
Okay.
There's eight. There's eight of them.
There's
The-
eight of
the
them.
Part one is obviously the preparation. So you need to prepare. So preparation would be about defining your marriage. Before I get to the foundation, defining your marriage. Ask someone to define their marriage or
No,
define the
You're not
relationship.
gonna
They don't
get
know.
anything there.
No.
You know, I'm laughing because, sure, the reasons some marriages are not moving or are stagnant
Expectations are too high.
is what exactly you just mentioned now. There's no definition of what we are doing. We know that we are married because age dictates that we are married, or financial standing dictates that we are married, but what are we doing?
So before we get to the foundation, we have to define. So you either have to define. It's more in detail and it's a little bit academic, but you would find that you know couples where the man is single and the woman is married in marriage. He's actually single. He
That
doesn't
is
care about the children.
sad.
He pays his own bills. So that kind of relationship is individual
Sure.
and collectivist, which means the woman is like collectivist. She's all about, you know what, we need to make things work. We need to get this marriage going. Our family needs to, our children needs to go to the school. She pays, you know, and I'm not saying, look, I'm not trying to be gender biased,
Yeah.
but
Most cases, yeah.
most males are single with their buddies and they're out. And I'm not saying all males, so
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
So that definition is not collectivist. It's not we
Yeah.
both are trying to make decisions on the best interest of the family.
That must be
So
very
now
stressful,
when the
yeah.
woman is not realizing that her husband is not really married, he's single,
Sure.
her expectation is then that's where the conflict happens. That's where they harm each other.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to do this and why you're not supposed to. And the fight is every day because in her head, he's married. In his head,
I'm not.
no. Yeah, I'm married, but I'm not going to
On
do. I'm
paper.
not going to do. You know what all other people do. I'm going to do my own thing, and that's where the harming happens, and that is where the conflict happens, and the cycle. So I've targeted and I've highlighted areas that is high risk. So now, if you sit down and the man is saying, "Look, I am individualistic.
Yeah.
Look here, I'm not going to sit. You do that, I do that." Then the expectations are lowered.
But would
She
would
has
they
to come-
admit, though?
She will, by behavior, you'll know, Pindi, because
No. You see.
he comes home 6:00 the next morning. Is that individualistic or collectivist?
No. What I'm saying is, as a wife, you will see that there is a problem. You will see that this person is behaving like a single person in a marriage, but chances are they won't admit to their behavior, even though that's how they're behaving.
But the book will tell them.
Oh,
The book will tell them that they're in an individualistic marriage.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of individual and married. So I'm a married person and you a single person
in a marriage.
in a marriage. And so we need to then define this before we even go to the foundation of the book. Are we going to stay single and married, or are we going to be married? Or do you want me also to be single? I
But
can
staying
also go
single
out.
and married is
It creates conflict.
It's actually exhausting. You know, I came across now that you are mentioning this, a couple who is in the similar type of setup, you know, where the husband, the wife was even saying that the husband takes off on Fridays and calls her when he's on his way to Durban to say, oh, actually, I forgot to tell you, I'm on my way to Durban. I just need to get away and rest. And I'm like, but how is that possible? You guys are married. He can't be making such decisions by himself and decide he needs to take off or he needs a weekend away and. But the most depressing part was where the wife says, the husband said, I'm actually tired of this thing. I'm tired of marriage. This is a lot. But now I'm seeing what you're saying.
His definition.
His definition of marriage and her definition are completely different.
So you will find, Pindi, that both would agree. So I had couples that agreed. He needs to be alone because he's he's got a top position, he's executive, he owns his own company. He needs to go away alone.
So it's
and
an
spend
arrangement.
time.
Yeah.
And if the wife agrees that is fine, that is what he needs.
For how long though?
That is what he needs. And there are couples that will say if that's what he needs to go away 3 times a year alone, he's going with a group. I know, Lindy. I know. We are living in a different.
And the thing is,
we're living in a different.
in the funny
modern
part,
era.
I know.
If they agree, it's not
sad.
conflict. If they agree, it's not conflict. There's no conflict if they agree. But if they don't agree, so you would see that as individualistic.
Yeah.
But she would see it as, I need to give my husband that time out.
But also, because we argue so much, when he doesn't get this, it's my way of gaining peace. It's my way of, you know what I mean?
She has her own time. She has her own time. When he goes away, then she has time for herself.
Peaceful
and then she
time.
uses that time constructively for herself. So then both of them get a break. So they usually call it separateness and connectedness. Someone wrote a book on separateness and connectedness.
Yeah.
Is that if you don't negotiate, I don't have it in my book, but if you don't negotiate separateness and connectedness, someone's going to be unhappy.
So you negotiate even if truthfully, or if you are being truthful, you are not happy, but you will do that just for peace sake.
It's not a deal breaker.
Yeah.
So for me to keep my marriage together, he can be away for a week, and then I'm going to take a week with the girls. And I'll just get mommy to take care of the baby or the child. But then I'm going to also use it constructively. He's not chaining her down to stay in the house.
Yeah.
Because he's going away.
Yeah. Okay. I hope it doesn't backfire later.
When couples agree on that and when they're okay with that, Pindi, I need to release that, because that doesn't then create conflict. I can create conflict by saying, no.
It's not happening.
It's not happening. It's what they believe. So some modern women don't like the authoritative husband that makes the last decision and has to make the only decision. But if they're both happy with the authoritative role, where he will decide on what color the couch should be.
Yeah. So you have that freedom at least.
It's different if you're a modern woman that says, no, why must you choose the color of the couch? I want to know what color I want,
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Your blueprint is your own decision on how you are going to choose.
Your own.
To build to last.
Marriage,
To build to last.
So that will not look the same, obviously, from different people. It looks different for each marriage.
It looks different for each marriage.
Wow.
And when we are religious and we try to put something in a particular pattern, that's when Christians or other religions are divorcing, because you want to dictate, this is the blueprint of marriage.
It has to be this or the highway.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is why I want to add Pindi, I mean, the majority of people in South Africa are Christians. So I'm mostly focused on that, but it is universally, you can use it universally with other religions as well, because
100%.
most religions are traditionally authoritarian,
Yes, yes.
where the husband makes the last decision and the wife has to agree. And that has caused divorce over the years, because we're modern now. What I'm saying is now, I'm not saying, I've been told that no matter, you don't know the Bible. I've been told you don't know the Bible because you're continuously talking about negotiation.
Yes, there's no negotiation.
There's no
in the
negotiation.
Bible.
So then what are you telling our women, about marriage? But remember, Pindi, when your husband goes to heaven, God is not going to ask him who chose the couch or the car.
No, it's not. It's neither here nor there. It's not important.
Your husband's responsibility is to make sure that your children reach their full potential as what God has purposed.
Yeah.
That's his main, any decision around spiritual and purpose.
The spiritual leadership.
That is his. He's not going to ask who did the kitchen cupboards. So that can be negotiated.
Yeah, that's true.
And then he's going to say, well, God, I wasn't able to, do exactly what you've called them to do, my kids. And then he's going to ask, but did you use Pindi? Your helpmeet. Pindi is there.
Yeah.
But you ignored Pindi. You thought Pindi was stupid. You thought Pindi was not intellectual enough.
Yeah.
I've placed it there as a helpmeet. What does helpmeet means? Negotiation.
Of course.
She's helping you. She's going to tell you, but love, don't you think this would work and that would work? But the authoritarian husband
takes that away.
Yeah.
I get
and
you.
so we do misunderstand that role in marriage.
We misunderstand God's intention, because I'll be honest. I have spent time in that scripture, and when it says God will find you a suitable helper or suitable helpmate, actually says exactly what we're saying, that your partner or your spouse will not be the same as the spouse next door, because this one is suitable for you. God chose this particular one for you because of certain shortcomings perhaps that you have. And God knew then that this one will be suitable and this one will be right for you.
And you have to use that person.
So when you say that I didn't use my spouse because they were stupid, according to whose standard? God brought that person for you for a reason. That's my belief. And that reason, because God knew or knows what you require, as a husband. And therefore you cannot check what is happening in your neighbor's house and say, oh, how come she's not, how come she doesn't have PhD like my neighbor and whatnot? Because that one is not suitable for you. But this one
is suitable for what you need.
Is suitable for your needs right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? That is incredible.
Yes. And so religion is not in the whole book, because I'm a psychologist.
Yeah.
It's not in the whole book, but it's on the foundation only.
Of course.
So some people will be religious, some people are not. So there's a part for religion. There's some people for the cognitive beliefs.
Yeah. But, I think one thing I've learned over the years, the principles of marriage are similar. It's amazing how non-Christians apply the same principles in their marriages, even though someone will say, actually, I'm not Christian and blah, blah. But when you look at the blueprint or how they conduct their marriage, it's amazing how there's so much similarity between the two. But I like the fact that you want to be inclusive in the book and just make sure that it touches different all families.
People. Yeah, it does touch all families. So the workbook allows you to work through that. And then the third surprise is there's a game.
Oh, yes, I saw that as well, which is nice because...
So the game is not a game to win, but it takes you through the different parts to remind you. There's some things that they would say, do something. If it's the 6 expressions of love, do something for her this whole week.
Oh, yes.
express your love this whole week, that one card would be. But it reminds you about your vision board. It reminds you about how you communicate. Because we read a book and we forget about the book.
Yeah.
We can have a workbook, but we can even forget about the workbook. But
Yeah.
we need to say, let's just do the game and see.
Yeah.
It actually just reinforces or it reminds you
Reminds you that's very
of
important.
your blueprint and what you've committed to do
Yeah.
in your marriage that keeps that going.
I like that a lot because let's be honest, a lot of people are failing in their marriages not because they are failures per se, but because they've actually never had any examples, around them. People, especially men, and I always say this, and this is not being gender biased or anything. I always say that men are at a disadvantage when it comes to marriage because most of the time, everything is geared around women. Your mom will teach you, how to be a good wife and blah, blah. But there's a lot that is not being done for men. And you'll find that men, honestly, they get into a marriage, as we had established earlier, and they become single in a marriage because there's never been anyone,
A role model.
a role model or a template that men follow for them to be better husbands. And now, as women, we seem like, we know what to do and all of that. But the thing is, we had our mothers to look up to, we had relatives and blah, blah. But for men, usually, there isn't any role models. And that's why I love that game that you've put together because it almost teaches you
It reinforces
what you need to do.
what you need to do. Yeah. It does just remind you about the book and what you've
Yeah.
committed to. So that's why it's called Built to Last, and to work on your own blueprint.
Yeah, create your own.
Create your own blueprint for your marriage. It's different to mine.
Yeah,
It's different to yours. And there's a lot of negotiation in that book where you need to actually sit and decide on what are we doing here. But the tools are there.
What
Obviously,
works.
the walls is how to negotiate. There's exercises of how to listen in the book. There's exercises. The book has got a lot of exercises and a lot of examples where you have that little exercise time. Listen to what she says and then paraphrase what you've heard. So we have that little exercises there. We have the little exercises in the workbook. And then we reinforce those communication skills.
Yeah.
And the emotional checklist. We have like an emotional checklist as well.